Beautiful afternoon, loves. All right, so let's continue the topic of nervous system herbs. This time we are going to shift the focus over to smoking cessation. So what we're going to talk about today requires requires reframing, and it requires a mindset shift, okay? And when we get into this discussion, I want you to simply sit with the information. If you need to go through and play this video back again, please do so. But we need to reframe smoking and really what is behind that. Okay? So let's talk about it. Let's see, where do we want to start with? We can start with willpower and, the people that are smoking. If you have any smokers or you've been a prior smoker, saying, oh, I just don't have the willpower, to do this, and trying to figure out where that craving is coming from. Okay. So, but what if the problem is not you at all? What if the problem is that every approach that you've ever tried to address the behavior is completely ignoring the underlying issue? Because there is an underlying issue. So we're going to go underneath that and get straight to the cause and what we can do to then move away from what has been framed as addiction, okay, into a change in the ritual. All right? So let's go ahead and talk about it. When you crave a cigarette, right? Nicotine it binds to or attaches to the acetylcholine receptors in your brain. And the acetylcholine is the transmitter that is responsible for attention and focus and adaptation. It is also responsible for stress regulation, mood stabilization, and it is also the calm after the stimulation. Okay? So remember that. Acetylcholine is the neurotransmitter, right, that is responsible for the above. It is attention, focus, adaptation, okay? Stress regulation, mood stabilization, and it is the calm after stimulation. So over time, what is happening when you are smoking cigarettes is that the acetylcholine is being downgraded. What your body produces naturally is being downgraded from that neurotransmitter, because the nicotine has taken over and is now supplying that. It's artificially supplying that. Okay? When the nicotine is removed, then your body is deficient, and that's what it needs to feel calm and focused. Okay? So that's what's actually happening. And so your craving is not really for a cigarette, it's for nervous system regulation. That's what you're reaching for. And I've heard people say it, oh, my nerves are bad, where's my cigarette? Or my nerves are bad, I need to smoke some, that other stuff. And so that's really what you're reaching for, which is why I constantly say, think about what you're thinking about. We're reframing what has been pinned as addiction. And just think about it. When I think about the Breathe Again program that is created the first release is specifically created for Black men. Think about it. During war, right? When Black men were smoking heavily, or during what is it called? Now I can't think it. When liquor was illegal. Child, I can't even think of it. Anyway, prohibition. During prohibition, and during all of these times after my folks were released into the earth and out of chains or freed themselves, out of change, began smoking to try to regulate the nervous system. So the plant medicine and the things that they were using before, right? The root of all these things were removed from them. So some had no memory of it. Other times they just didn't have access and were reaching for the closest thing, which became the cigarette. And before tobacco was corrupted, tobacco wasn't altogether a bad thing. That's a conversation for a different day, but it's been corrupted with all these chemicals. So we're going to stick with this for now. Okay, but think about the times, right? So, the job that you're working is stressful. You may have children, or you're going through a season, or whatever it is, or even children that pick up cigarettes, right? If they are looking for nervous system regulation, that's really what you're reaching for. Okay, so the cigarette just happens to drive it, and it's an enormous cost because we know all of the harm that has caused, especially in our communities. So this is why willpower, it fails. Okay? Your body is not naturally reproducing the acetylcholine that it needs. You need something that addresses the deficiency itself. And that's exactly where the plant medicine come in. Okay? Nervine herbs are great for nervous system regulation, and I'm going to share some of those with you. So let's get into it. The last video we talked about passion flower, skullcap, and lemon balm. Okay? So this one we're going to go over some mullein, damiana, passion flower, and lobelia. So let's talk about these, and this is each one with a specific breakdown. So lobelia contains lobeline. It is a compound that binds to the same receptors as nicotine without the addiction. Okay? No addiction attached. It is the most pharmacologically specific herb for smoking cessation available. It helps the brain transition by occupying the receptor sites that the nicotine used to fill. So it's filling in the gap, okay, for that acetylcholine. And it's used in smoking cessation protocols for those that have created a smoking cessation protocol. You have passion flower. So we've talked about passion flower before, and passion flower increases the GABA activity. It reduces the anxiety that spikes when nicotine is withdrawn. So it's helping to stabilize the nervous system, and it supports sleep, calms the nervous system, and it addresses the emotional volatility of cessation. Because quitting smoking, when you pull that back, and then that neurotransmitter, it's spiking, but it can't reach and reproduce the acetylcholine because it's been diminished. So you need some herbs to help support your system until the body begins to reproduce those again on its own. Then we have damiana. Damiana, we talked about it in our herbal spotlight. So I have a video on damiana, and I will connect it here. Okay. It is in the cessation context, damiana supports mood, energy, and the nervous system resilience that erodes during withdrawal. So it addresses the flatness and the low mood that you may have that makes many people want to return to cigarettes. So you're trying your best to stop smoking and put it down, but you're reaching for it because it's a filler. It's been a filler. Okay? Then we have mullein. So mullein is, again, one of my favorite herbs. It is not a nervine, but it is essential in this particular context because mullein restores and cleanses the lung tissue, excuse me. It cleanses the lung tissue simultaneously while the nervines address the brain. Both need support. And so Breathe Again addresses that. It is built around understanding what we just spoke about. Breathe Again is a blend that has the herbs because it addresses the specific needs and the changes of cessation, smoking cessation. Okay? So it's not you, you're not weak, you're not failing, and you've been trying to solve a biology problem with willpower. So it really is biology, it's science. Okay, the tools that you need are botanical and they are available right now, today, if you want to access those. It is available in our Breathe Again kit. And again, this first release is for men because it does contain affirmation cards and music playlists on the back of each of your cards that specifically speak to the men in our community. Okay, the women's release is coming up, so if you want to get on the wait list, you can add your name to the wait list, and I will update that information. And when it's been released, you will be among the first to know. Okay, so 3 things. Get your Breathe Again kit, it is available. The link will be listed below. Add your name to the wait list. Okay, that will also be listed below. And also share the video. Please share the video. You may not need it, but someone you know may need it. And just share the information because remember, everything on this channel is educational. Okay? So you should be learning more and building upon the knowledge that you had from before. Everything should be cumulative as we go. Thank you so much for joining me. And again, it looks good to feel good. So love you. Until next time, take care.